This is Esther May's maiden voyage. It will be her very first pantograph. So far, the only stitching I've done has been on a test piece off to the side. So we're going to open up pantograph and set the safe area. So I'm moving it back all the way to the top left, and now we're moving it all the way forward to the bottom right, touching there. And now I want to set the width, so I'm using the yellow ruler. And this is a Quilts for Kids, so I'll be doing the binding by flipping the backing over. So I'm going to be quilting within the top. I'm not going to quilt off the edge, so that's why I'm setting my needle inside here. And I'm touching in the left side of this slanted block, and then I'm moving it over to where I want the stitching to stop, and then I'm touching on the right side of where we have the green slanted and saying apply measurement. And I've decided that when I move this all the way back and move it all the way forward, I've decided I'm going to use 15 for my total height. So I'm going to say 15. I touch there and say okay, so now I've got 15 there. I need to select my pattern. I'm going to use the diamonds, so open that up, and we want 2 rows, and let's see, I believe I'm going to give it 5. Okay, and I'm not going to nest this any. I'm just going to leave it just like it is. So I'm just keeping this super simple and easy, and I'm not going to play around any. I'm just going to go right into quilt. And in settings, I've got it for medium, and we'll do 4 micro stitches. And I do want to pause at the trim lines. I'm going to do 11 stitches per inch, and then we have 1 point fill method center, so we're going to say okay. So now this is the selection I have on the bottom, so I need to go to where the top left corner of the block would be. So I'm moving my needle to where I want the top stitches of my design to hit, and then with where I want the top stitch or the stitches at the far left to hit. So that's where I'm putting my needle, and I'm going to touch there. And now I'm going to say, I could say trace, but I'm just going to go ahead and say pull bobbin, because this one's pretty simple. And I do want to comment on something. Pull that bobbin here. Normally I would go into the optimize screen and let it stitch in one continuous thing. It would stitch the first row across and come down and then back across, but I didn't do that on this one because I don't want that stitch line down the right side, since I'm not going off the edge of the top. So now we're just going to say so, and we're going to watch Esther May hopefully take off. And there she goes. It's her very first panto right here. So I'm going to check and make sure that the bobbin looks okay underneath. And this over here on the side, I'm going to let the machine stop and quit sewing right there, because I do want that jump stitch. I don't want stitches down the edge there, since I won't have them on the left side. So okay, the bobbin looks really good. So this is how Esther May is stitching, and I'm using a see, what am I using? I'm forgetting what thread I'm using. I know is it Superior? It's Superior So Fine 50 weight thread. So, and I also am using that in the bobbin. You know, I'm a big fan of Glide, but I needed this particular color. I'm being bad. I didn't baste down the edges because I didn't want to have to take the basting stitches out, which when you flip the binding over, you really need to do that. So I didn't do that. So I'm hoping it'll be fine. So just wanted to share Esther May's first pantograph with you. So I'm very pleased, and I just want to give a shout out to the Grace Company and just say thank you, Grace, for making a quilt frame and a machine that is affordable so that someone like me can have the joy of quilting my own quilt. So thank you, Grace. So I've completed the 2 rows, and now I want to go ahead and mark where the next row is going to start, where that top left corner is be for once I advance the quilt. So when you look at the design, there isn't any space between the 2 rows. You have these the lower tip of the first row and the upper tip of the second row. They're even with each other. So what I've done is I just took a straight ruler and those lowest tips there, I've just lined them up, and then I've made a line, and I use the Crayola Ultra Clean Washable. I've never had it not wash out, so I'm gonna keep using it until then. And these quilts all get washed before they're given. So I've lined this up with that lowest stitch mark, and I've made a horizontal line. And then it's very important that that the next line, which will be vertical, that it be exactly below these 2 lines. So I've lined this up. And then I could also use another part of a design. In this case, it's easy because these 2 lines are right there. So I'm just lining up where that stitch began and this stitch ended, and then I've made another vertical mark. And so when I advance my quilt, then the intersection of those 2 lines, I will move the needle on top of that intersection and touch there, and then I'll be ready to start and do the next rows. So I hope you've enjoyed Esther May's Maiden Voyage.